Welcome to another episode of Cards from Magic's Past. In this video, we'll take a look at a 2-drop green creature that was once considered the best 2-drop in the game, Wild Mongrel. Released in 2001, Wild Mongrel was part of a cycle of 2-drop 2/2 common hounds from the set Odyssey. In this cycle, Wild Mongrel was the only card that saw any successful competitive play. For 1 generic and 1 green mana, you get a 2/2 creature with the ability that says discard a card, while Mongrel gets +1/+1 and becomes the color of your choice until end of turn. This 2/2 for 2 saw immediate play in Standard as a way to quickly get cards into the graveyard. Odyssey block focused on the discard pile, so cards with flashback or threshold benefited greatly from the hound. For the viewers who don't know what threshold is, it's a keyword ability that gives a card an upgrade when there are 7 or more cards in the controller's graveyard. And flashback is an ability that lets you cast a card from the graveyard one last time before being exiled. Not only was Wild Mongrel good in decks with graveyard strategies, the 2/2 for 2 was right on curve, and its pump ability was a nuisance for the opponent. Also, the color changing effect mattered, since there were cards like Dark Banishing that only worked on specific colors. Wild Mongrel, being a cheap, efficient creature, enabled threshold decks to get their required 7 cards in the discard pile fairly easily. There were many different versions of threshold, some with green-blue, and others with green-white. Another standard deck that used Wild Mongrel was called Red-Green Beats. This aggro deck had cards that benefited from Wild Mongrel's discard ability, such as Call of the Herd, which was a popular flashback card from Odyssey, and Grim Lavamancer, a 1/1 creature that shocks target creature or player when paying a red mana and exiling 2 cards in the graveyard. When Torment released, the keyword mechanic Madness took Wild Mongrel to greater heights. This ability gives a card with Madness the option to be cast at an alternate mana cost when being discarded. Cards such as Basking Rootwalla would be cast for 0 mana thanks to Madness. And since Wild Mongrel's discard ability can be activated at any time, a Rootwalla or other creature with Madness such as Arrogant Worm could be played at instant speed. Madness proved to be a powerful strategy, and it won Pro Tour Osaka in 2002 shortly after the keyword mechanic was introduced. In that tournament, 2 other decks that also played a set of Mongrels made the top 8. Although the Pro Tour format was Odyssey block constructed, Madness was also good in Standard. So good that it stayed competitive throughout its entire time in the format, and it even made its last hurrah at the 2003 World Championship when Pro Tour Hall of Famer Dave Humphries made the top 8 piloting the discard-themed deck. Even though Wild Mongrel and Madness rotated out of Standard, they continued on in Extended, which, for the uninitiated, was a rotating format that expanded its card pool to several more sets than Standard. However, it is no longer supported in sanctioned tournaments. Although Extended had a much larger pool of cards and more powerful decks, Madness was still able to contend in the format, and it even made the top 8 of several premier tournaments. These extended versions of Madness were similar to its predecessor, but since dual lands from Ravnica were available in the format, playing with 3 or more colors was viable. Some Madness decks included black for Psychotog, which was another card from Odyssey that could get bigger by discarding cards. One such success was Billy Moreno's Pro Tour Top 8 Madness Tog deck that almost took the crown at Pro Tour Los Angeles in 2005. Madness with the Mongrel also saw brief success in Legacy. This version pretty much had your typical blue and green Legacy staples, but used Wild Mongrel to Madness out Rootwallas and even played Vengevine as a way to get more creatures on the board for free. It also ran Survival of the Fittest, which we will get to later. Madness might perhaps be the main reason why Wild Mongrel is still remembered to this day. However, the creature was incredibly important in several other strategies. Going back to the World Championship in 2002, Wild Mongrel was seen in several different standard decks such as Squirrel Opposition. This deck's primary strategy was to use the enchantments Opposition and Squirrel Nest to tap down the opponent's board. It used the Hound in many different ways since it had both the Madness counterspell Circular Logic and flashback card Roar the Worm. In Extended, Wild Mongrel saw success in several iterations of Zoo. For the viewers who don't know what Zoo is, it's a multicolored aggro deck that typically runs a lot of animal-themed creature cards and burn spells. In Legacy, Wild Mongrel saw its biggest success in a very powerful, consistent deck called Survival. These decks were called Survival because they ran a broken enchantment from Exodus called Survival of the Fittest. This enchantment was very good, as it could continuously have you tutor any creature to your hand just by paying a green mana and discarding a creature card. There were many broken creatures that synergized well with survival, such as the aforementioned Vengevine. There are many different versions of survival, some with the Mongrel and some without. But because survival became the de facto legacy deck to beat in 2010, its namesake ended up being banned, which also hurt Wild Mongrel's playability and legacy. For a very long time, Wild Mongrel was considered the best 2-drop creature in the game. However, better creatures like Dark Confidant and Tarmogoyf took that title away from the Hound. As of the recording of this video, we do not know what the best 2-drop creature in the game is. But what we do know is Wild Mongrel was a great card that made an impact on the game for nearly 10 years after its release. That is all for this episode. We hope you enjoyed reliving the history of Wild Mongrel. Make sure to give this video a like and please leave a comment on any cards we should cover in future episodes. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in our next video.